is CBS News Miami.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Najahe Sherman, and welcome to CBS News Miami's 4 p.m. Quickcast. We are tracking Hurricane Idalia. The storm is moving through Georgia, and we have live team coverage. Off the top, a look at the aftermath of Hurricane Idalia and its path of destruction. The storm came ashore near Cedar Key as a Category 3. It had sustained winds near 125 miles per hour. Flood waters rose in parts of Tampa as the hurricane made landfall in the region. Tracking Idalia as it moves into Savannah, Georgia. It is gray and heavy rain as the hurricane approaches. In Charleston, South Carolina, they are getting ready for what's to come. Animal shelters now preparing their buildings for the potential impact. This is a look at the storm as it moves northeast through Georgia. Well, it has been warm and windy here as we watch the storm's path. The next weather meteorologist, Cindy Pressler, has a quieter forecast. But, Cindy, we are certainly dealing with the extreme heat here.
We are. Temperature today, 94 degrees, and we're looking for hotter temperatures as we go into Thursday and Friday. And the little bit of rain that we have out here, this is still some leftover moisture from Idalia. So even though it's way up there in Georgia, we're still getting the banding in here. Not a lot, but a few of these little breezy showers that are racing off to the north and east at about 40 miles per hour. So if you get under one of those, you might get a heavy downpour, but it'll move out so quickly. So peak gusts today, Miami 32 miles per hour. You probably experienced that. 36 in Fort Lauderdale. Even the Keys, very gusty winds. Key West today, 37 mile per hour gusts. That's the highest so far. And because of these gusty winds, we have that tight pressure gradient. We still have a wind advisory in effect until 7 o'clock, and it includes everyone except the Keys. The Keys are not included in this. We could still have gusts up to 35 miles per hour yet to this afternoon into this evening. So the center of Idalia, it is racing off to the north and east. I just talked to a friend of mine in Savannah, Georgia. She said, not too bad there. It's gusty and there's some rain, but it's not that bad. I think the heavier rain is to the north side of it. But this is the cone, the proposed track that is supposed to take right along the Carolinas, then back out into the Atlantic. Of course, the water is warm there, but at this point, model guidance is going to keep it out there, and eventually it'll get caught up into some other flow. So hopefully we'll say goodbye to Idalia in a few short days. Certainly would be good to see that. So our winds out of the southwest, that's going to be the flow now as we head into the end of the week. Still could see a passing shower yet this evening, and then tomorrow a little bit more moisture because we still have that leftover kind of a moisture tail is still sitting over South Florida. So we're going to keep that chance for showers and thunderstorms in the forecast for Thursday and Friday. Then some changes for the weekend, and that's just in time for the holiday weekend. You got to love that. Tropical moisture, you bet, hanging on. So very sticky today. Same thing. And now we're going to add the heat to that. So with temperatures in the mid-90s, it'll feel like triple digits until the weekend. Sunday into Monday, winds turn out of the northeast. We get drier air in here. Lower chances for rain, so it'll dry out. But because 95 degrees is going to be combined with all that humidity, we're going to have some very high, what feels like temperatures tomorrow into the triple digits. Here's your forecast. Temperatures topping out in the mid-90s, near records, and then cooler, a little bit cooler as we head into the weekend, but it's the drier air we're going to love.
All right, definitely an improvement, so we will take it. Thank you, Cindy. Idalia brought wind and rain to Key West on Tuesday, but this afternoon, people there are dealing with flooding. CBS News Miami's Ted Scouten reports from Key West.
So here in Key West, we've been dealing with increasing winds as well as some pretty heavy surf. You can take a look right back here at the ocean. It's pretty high right now, pretty choppy. You can see it coming over the seawall. What's going on is we're kind of close to high tide, just after high tide right now. Also experiencing king tides, so the water's already elevated. Storm surge is expected to be a foot or two, so add that to everything. And what they're concerned about here is flooding. You can see in this area here, water has already come over the seawall. Earlier today, we were actually back by the wall and there was no water here. Now it's completely filled. Over here, that looks like a bar or a cooler that floated out of a nearby restaurant, and it's just there right now. You can see what floodwaters can do. That looks like it's pretty heavy. There's also some surfers that are out there too. If you look back over there, kind of hard to see them in the surf, but there's a couple guys out there surfing today. They're finding some great waves. Just a little while ago, we were over by the southernmost point, something familiar with many people. They saw huge waves crashing over there. At this point, people having fun, but of course, the warning goes out, just be careful when you're in this type of weather. County officials at this point have not ordered any evacuations. Schools is underway, as well as county offices are all open. Ted Scouten, CBS News, Key West.
CBS News Miami's Terry Hornstein picks up our team coverage. She is in Doral with more on South Florida's efforts to help those who have been impacted.
I was about 21 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was that your first big one?
Lieutenant Maria Ortiz remembers Hurricane Andrew back in 1992 all too well.
This is what we call our duffel. We carry the majority of our equipment in here.
She volunteered to pass out supplies after the storm, and ever since then hasn't looked back.
We focus on searching victims in case of a disaster.
The lieutenant joins 90 other people on Task Force 1, staging in north central Florida with water and canines ready to search and rescue after Idalia hits. Other organizations are stepping in to help too. The Global Empowerment Mission, a nonprofit, has 2 trucks ready to go with supplies families might need.
This is where we're going to pre-position any aid that's going on to the tractor-trailer trucks.
And the Humane Society of Broward County, bringing back more than a dozen animals in the hopes of getting them adopted right here in South Florida.
Once the animals arrive back here, we'll give them time to adjust and then make them available for adoption in the next couple of days.
Organizations across our state in place and ready, bracing for impact and doing what they can to prepare to help.
That was CBS News Miami's Terry Hornstein reporting. Idalia crashed ashore this morning along Florida's Big Bend region. It's a dangerous Category 3 hurricane. The eye of the storm, though, has already left Florida, and now we are tracking what's next. CBS News Miami's Christian Benavides has the latest.
So far it's holding, but the water just keeps coming.
Idalia's powerful and in some places record-breaking storm surge is submerging parts of Florida's Gulf Coast.
The whole front building of the faraway end where the swings were just came apart.
Homes and streets in Cedar Key are now underwater from a surge forecasters say could hit 16 feet high.
We're still assessing what is all going on the ground in the places that had the initial impact.
Tampa was spared a direct hit, but is feeling the impact. Water is spilling over the city's causeway, and there's also significant flooding on the streets of St. Petersburg.
Here in Crystal River, we've been experiencing bands of rain and fierce wind as the storm moves through. Now everyone is watching the water and how high it will go.
Unfortunately, we've not seen the worst of what the storm's impacts are going to be.
Even though Idalia is now moving over land, forecasters warn the storm is still a major threat.
We're going to see, not just a storm surge, but potential for, damaging winds extending well inland all the way across portions of North Florida into southern Georgia.
In Key West, cleanup has already begun. John Napolitano is trying to get his business open again.
Going for the drains to get some of this water out of here. The city can deal with the seaweed.
Officials say more than 250,000 people in Florida are still without power, but crews are working to get the lights back on as soon as possible. Christian Benavides, CBS News, Crystal River, Florida.
Idalia has now been downgraded to a tropical storm as it passes through Georgia and into South Carolina. But it was a very powerful Category 3 when it hit Florida. Jason Allen has been covering this storm for us since the very beginning. So, Jason, first up, I want to ask you, how are you doing? And what is the situation where you're at today?
Well, it's an eye-opening situation for people here in Steinhatchee, Naja, because they have had storms over the years that have been aimed at this area, right, and have always taken that slight move at the last minute. And so to see destruction like this is something they haven't seen before. They've never been in a situation where their city has taken a direct hit like it did this time.
Idalia slammed into Florida's Big Bend region as a Category 3 hurricane, packing maximum sustained winds of around 125 miles per hour.
That building on the end down there is going to come apart.
The storm's impact was felt the length of Florida's Gulf Coast, with storm surge that submerged entire communities. Crews in Hernando County rescued this family that couldn't evacuate in time due to car troubles, but they tried.
And over the second bridge, it got real deep, real fast, and then the water started coming in like crazy.
In Tampa, people traveled by paddleboard down Bayshore Boulevard, Water washed onto the bridge that connects the city to nearby St. Petersburg. More than 500,000 customers across Florida lost power. By midday, about half had the lights back on.
Utility workers are actively working to restore power in all affected areas.
The Florida governor's mansion did not escape the storm's impact. This 100-year-old oak tree fell on the property.
Oh gosh, it's gotten worse.
A tree also landed on Connie Walden's home in Steenhatchee. She and many of her neighbors chose to not evacuate.
And I've got a lot of people mad at me right now that I didn't.
Even though the storm has mostly moved on from the Big Bend region, forecasters warn the high tide, fueled by a rare blue supermoon, could keep pushing the storm surge higher, up to 16 feet in some places.
Idalia reached Georgia as a Category 1 hurricane, knocking out power to tens of thousands.
For those that were in the line of the storm, it is very hard hitting.
Idalia is expected to move into South Carolina by Wednesday evening. Jason Allen, CBS News, Steenhatchee, Florida.
We're still seeing some helicopters surveying the area tonight, still looking for people that may need help in those floodwaters. The good news is, Naja, in the last few minutes, we've watched a lot of the on-the-ground search and rescue teams with the boats, with the trailers, with the trucks, go ahead and move out of this area. A good sign that there's nobody else who needs help getting out right now.
That is really good news. There were a lot of warnings. Jason, did you get the impression, based on your reporting and the time that you've spent there, that people felt like they had adequate time to prepare and knew the intensity of the storm going into this so they could make the best decision for themselves?
I did. I didn't run into anybody who thought that this came up quickly. And remember, this is a storm that did come up quickly. It was only a few days ago. It was just appearing as a possibility and got here fast. But people felt like they had those few days to think about if they wanted to get out and go somewhere else, or if they wanted to stay here and make those plans. Everybody felt they had good warnings and a good forecast track for this storm as well.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It got here quickly. It evolved quickly. Fortunately, no deaths reported at this point. And thank you, Jason, for your reporting. When we come back, an update on cleanup efforts and what's next for hard-hit communities. Stay with us. Welcome back to CBS News Miami's 4 p.m. Quickcast. On Capitol Hill, President Biden delivered remarks on Hurricane Idalia and its impacts on Florida. The president praised FEMA and DeSantis for their around-the-clock effort to clean up across the state. However, as roads get cleared and power gets restored to thousands of homes, Biden says the work is just beginning.
Federal teams on the ground are going to continue to work with the first responders in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina to get people to safety. You've all been reporting this, you've seen it on television. There are a number of rescues already taking place as I walked out of my office a moment ago to begin to recover from the impacts of this storm.
President Biden says he will continue to offer his support to first responders and the agencies helping with the multi-state recovery. That's your Quickcast. I'm Najahe Sherman. Stay tuned for more news right here on CBS News Miami.